Okay, Doug, you can take it away.
All right, good morning, everyone. This is Wednesday, September 15th. It is 10:03 a.m., and this is the regularly scheduled Lincoln County Board of Commissioners meeting being held virtually. We are being recorded and we are live on YouTube. First item is to call the meeting to order, which I have now done. Next item is to establish a quorum. We have all three commissioners present, which constitutes a full quorum. Next item would be adoption of the consent calendar. These are items of a routine nature or items that have come before the Board of Commissioners previously. If commissioners or staff wish to highlight an item, they may do so now. Otherwise, I'll entertain a motion to adopt the consent calendar as presented.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say, moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Sorry.
Aye.
All right, I heard three ayes. That motion carries. Next item on our agenda, we have some we have a public hearing, excuse me. And this is a public hearing on the petition to vacate portions of streets within Seal Rock View. This will be presented by our Public Works Director, Roy Kenyon. And this is a public hearing, so I will open the public hearing and hear a report from our staff, Director Kenyon.
Good morning, commissioners. I'm Roy Kenyon, Lincoln County Public Works Director. On August 18th, we presented a request to vacate a portion of Northwest North, Wallace, and Bernard Streets in the Seal Rock View subdivision. There were people on both sides of this, opposition and for, and we decided after listening to everyone that we would continue this public hearing to today. One of the biggest factors was we were waiting for an easement agreement between two of the adjacent property owners, the ones that are adjacent to Bernard Street. Currently, both of these adjacent property owners are utilizing Bernard Street, which is a public road, to access their properties. What they needed to do was to put together an easement agreement and a legal description to give each other easement across, I guess, what would become private property if this vacation was approved. We are still in a process of trying to get that document put together. I talked with Jerry Herbage, County Council, this morning. We've decided that it's important that this become part of the record, and so it needs to be submitted during the public hearing process. Therefore, what we're asking is that this be continued until October 13th. At that point in time, we should have all of the appropriate documents. Now I'm going to turn this over to County Council, but we do have, I believe, some people that may want to actually speak in this continuance of this public hearing, and I'm not sure how we want to process that. Jerry?
Well, while we're waiting for Jerry, I might suggest let's hear from Jerry. If we have commissioners questions from commissioners of staff, let's give them the opportunity to ask them at that time. And then if there is public testimony that people want to become part of the record, we can proceed through that process with the proponents and then the opponents.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioner and Mr. Chair. As Roy Kenyon indicated, we did have a discussion. I think that Roy in his report this morning has accurately outlined the state of affairs with respect to the application. We do not have an acceptable easement agreement at this time. I think that what I would recommend to the board is take testimony from anyone who would like to testify today. And I would ask the board to consider making a motion to continue this until October 13th at 10 o'clock, the regular meeting. That motion would be made probably after you taken testimony.
All right, any questions or comments of commissioners at this point?
None for me, thank you.
Okay, Mr. Miller, as our PIO, I'll ask you to moderate the testimony. Let's hear from people that are in favor of this petition to vacate. And if you are interested in commenting for the public record, please raise your hand, and Mr. Miller will monitor your access. And I see Mr. Ramola.
But while we're giving them time to raise their hands, let's check on our phone caller. Of course, they don't have the ability to raise their hand. So the 503-781 phone number, I've given you the unmute option. Were you wanting to testify in favor at this time? Our phone caller?
Do we have the number, Casey? Maybe that'll help.
Yeah, this is 503-781-7870. So for that person on the phone, there you go.
Hello.
We can
Hello.
hear you.
Hi, this is Roxanne. This is Roxanne Winters and Kevin Winters.
Okay, do you wish to comment for the public record in favor of this petition?
Yes, I do.
All right, we can hear you. Go ahead.
So we are the property owners that have the easement along Bernard Street, along with the Fritzes, which Tina is also on this call. First off, I apologize that we didn't get an attorney for this to begin with. We have an attorney lined up, and we also can get the surveyor to weigh in on this if needed, which that's what Roy suggested. So again, we'll be moving forward on this as quickly as possible to get this resolved. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Anyone else wish to address the board in favor? I see Ms. Fritz's hand is up, Commissioner or Mr. Miller.
Okay, and yep, she's clear to go.
Sorry, I don't have the hand thing. We are in agreements with the Winter Pane because we do share that easement. I just wanted to say that we are in agreement too.
All right, thank you. Others that wish to speak in favor of the petition? Mr. Ramola. I'm trying to help Casey by when I see people raise their hand visually.
I appreciate it, Paul. You may need to press the unmute button.
I did.
Okay.
Sorry about that. Couple things. One is, as far as this easement on Bernard, I apologize for the confusion. We need to get this done. It's costing me a fair amount of time. And I agree that we give them time to do it. I instructed them that I thought it would be best to get a lawyer, get this thing drawn up legally, and they agreed. And the other thing is, I know you need a legal description, and it's in the packet that we had a survey done of everything, and somewhere in there, there's a Bernard Street description. So I suggested they call the surveyor up, Gary Nyhouse, and have him just look it up. It'd only take a couple minutes, and I'm sure, and he can stamp it and give it to him. So this shouldn't be a big deal. I'm hoping it's going to be done by October the 13th. And I guess the alternate is, if it is not, then we might just drop them from the group. I'm getting pressure from other people in the group to get this done. So I think they'll do it. I think they're sincere in it, but October 13th, you might say something a little different. As far as the parks go, their objection. I sent a letter to Roy, who forwarded on to the board, and I don't think I have to discuss that anymore. I think you guys can all read and understand what I was trying to say. If you have any questions of me, I'll be happy to answer them. But it's just to me, it's just a straw dog, if you will. It's just not. It's just the state parks. I think you can use the word sour grapes, but there's no reason to hold this back because of the state park. So that's all I got to say. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Anyone else wish to speak in favor of this petition?
I think that's all we've got.
All right, now we'll give an opportunity to those that may wish to speak in opposition to the petition. Raise your hand and Mr. Miller will give you access to the board.
Yeah,
Audio access.
not seeing anyone, and I think we've really gone through all available individuals here. So,
All right, commissioners, questions, comments?
Mr. Chair, I don't have any questions. Just I'm in favor of moving this along. I did not find the state park objections compelling. I really don't understand the reasoning, even, whether the ultimate envisioned development of Brian Booth Park at the scale the state has proposed ever happens or not. It really should not impact the neighbors' justified requests to vacate these rights of way. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Jacobson? Anything?
Could I say something to the board? To me, what we're recommending, and if you agree with this, is to continue the matter. So I think, something that looks like deliberation towards a decision when the record isn't closed is something
Okay.
that we kind of want to stay away from.
Okay.
right.
And I'd ask the board to keep an open mind until the record is closed. I think the only issue is I think I got the drift that Mr. Romola was fine with a continuance, and there was some concern that this not go on too long. It's not written in stone, but staff would be Roy Kenyon and myself had recommended October 13th as a possible date for continuance. As I say, it's not written in stone. It could be a different date. Probably shouldn't be any sooner, as it takes time for attorneys to do documents and be able to give it, the amount of time needed. So those are just some thoughts.
Well, I was looking for thoughts or comments as far as the question on continuing this public hearing. And in my opinion, it appears that there has been some challenges in getting an easement that is one that is acceptable and will work. And I didn't hear any strong opposition to continuing this hearing until October 13th at the regular Board of Commissioners meeting at 10 a.m. So those are my thoughts. Commissioner Jacobson?
Yeah, I have a question for Council Urbidge. You said, you anticipate maybe a continuance till the 13th. It would not be sooner than that, but you had not settled on the date. Would you want the motion to actually say October 13th?
Yes, I would like the motion to have a date. The 13th is one that would work for Roy. It would be 4 weeks out. And one thing that would be very nice about having that specific date is we wouldn't have to renotice. And there's 3 types of notices, I think, that are done here, and it's very expensive. So that's something. Yeah.
Well, I will move that we continue this public hearing until October 13th at 10 a.m. for the regular Board of Commissioners, Lincoln County Board of Commissioners meeting to be held at, as I said, 10 a.m. virtually.
I second the motion.
Been moved and seconded. Any other discussion? Is that motion acceptable, Council Burbidge?
Yes.
All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
All right, that motion carries, and we'll continue the public hearing on October 13th, 10 a.m. virtually. And hopefully by then we'll have an easement that works.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, next
Thank
we
you.
have some. You're welcome. Thank you. All right, next we have some decision items. The first is a authorization for the chair, which would be me, to enter into an opioid litigation settlement agreement upon review and recommendation of county council. County Council Ewell, anything to add?
Thank you, Chair Hunt. So as you're aware, we've been having these discussions for a little over a year. You've delegated to our office the ability to negotiate on behalf of the county an agreement. And these includes other public entities that have already filed the opioid litigation. Some other counties, Clackamas, Clatsop, Multnomah, Washington, Yamhill, and the city of Portland. Essentially, these opioid litigation settlement funds, they're intended for local entities. They'll be paid directly to the local entities and not pass through the state of Oregon. So that's where the talks are right now. So I just need a decision to authorize you, Chair Hunt, that once we receive the proposed settlement agreement, that you will be able to enter into those negotiations. Be mindful that the final agreement would be going to the board for final review and approval.
Questions from commissioners, comments?
Nope. Good. Happy to move this forward, and I would make a motion that the chair be authorized to enter into the settlement agreement.
I second the motion.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
That motion carries. All right, now we'll move along to what is some additional action to be taken after our public hearing that was held last Thursday. And this is regarding exceptions to Goal 18. And I will read the information and we can have a discussion. But this is an ordinance amending the Lincoln County Comprehensive Plan, adopting an exception to statewide Goal 18 Implementation Requirement 5 to allow placement of beachfront protective structures on property in Glen Eden / Lincoln Beach for applicant Sea Ridge condominiums in case file number 01 LUPC-21. The ordinance declares an emergency. If there's any discussion, we can have that, or I'll entertain a motion to move as I read.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Council Burbidge, are we okay legally so far?
Yeah, basically, let me summarize. The public comment portion of the hearing is over, as the chair said. The hearing was on Thursday. No one asked that the record be left open or that the matter be continued. The board closed the record, deliberated, and reached a decision to approve the application of Sea Ridge condominiums. That's the first ordinance here. It's going to be ordinance number 520. And so there's no need for a reading. What's important is for the board to identify the ordinance. The ordinance has been drafted. It was slightly modified from what it was before to account for what happened on Thursday. And it contains the findings, fact, conclusions of law from the Planning Commission, as well as a map that is attached. The ordinance is in the packet of the board, and that is what you're voting to approve. Thank you.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
That motion carries. All right, I'll read the second ordinance amending the Lincoln County Comprehensive Plan, adopting an exception to statewide planning goal 18, implementation requirement 5, to allow placement of beachfront protective structures on property in Glen Eden / Lincoln Beach for applicant Worldmark Glen Eden Resort in case file number 02. LUPC-21. The ordinance declares an emergency, and I will so move.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any additional comments, Councilor Urbich?
No, it's just what you gave was a summary of the ordinance title without getting into all the legal descriptions and so on. And it's the same as before. What's on the record has to do with you've had your hearing and you're moving to approve this ordinance with its attachments.
All right. It's been moved and seconded. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All right, and we have one more to go, and I will move approval of the ordinance amending the Lincoln County Comprehensive Plan, adopting an exception to statewide goal 18, implementation requirement number 5, to allow placement of beachfront protective structures on property in Glen Eden / Lincoln Beach for applicants Ed and Joan Tanabe, Richard and Sally Grant, Sherry and Peter Kane, trustees of the George Kane Irrevocable Trust, and Terry and Janice DeSilvia in case number 03 LUPC-21. The ordinance declares an emergency. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Moved and seconded. Councilor Urbich, any additional comments?
The same comments that I'd made on the prior ones, and thank you to the board.
All right, any additional discussion? Been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
That motion carries. All right. We'll move on to reports, and let's do Echo Mountain first. Traditionally, I think that's been Commissioner Jacobson with support from Mr. Miller and others.
With support from everybody.
Yeah, very good.
I would say definitely a team effort. The only update I have, just maybe the public or people listening kind of want to think about this, is we were told by our FEMA recovery liaison that they expect here by at the most by the end of next week, probably by the end of this week, that there will be a request for proposals dropped by the EPA, which would provide technical assistance to wildfire affected communities. This is different in the fact that it's not a grant. No money exchanges hands. We would put together some type of proposal. I've been told that the requirements are fairly limited in terms of what we need to write to put together, but we'd put together some type of proposal asking for technical assistance, and that technical assistance through a contractor would just be directly provided to us. So again, no money would be changing hands. We wouldn't do an RFP. All that would be dealt with by the EPA, and we would get the person or people to provide that technical assistance. So I haven't seen the actual proposal yet because it's not out. So I don't know what the exact parameters are, but they said in the past for other disasters, there have been, technical assistance provided for housing, for things like, water system repair and that kind of stuff. Again, it's not the project. They're not paying for a project. They're paying for technical assistance to sort of help you think through some of the challenges you may be facing in recovery. So we had an internal chat yesterday with our internal recovery partners, all of our county departments that are involved, trying to think about what we might need technical assistance for. I think there's a couple of obvious ones, like housing that would be helpful, though it's not, again, building housing, but more so providing technical assistance on how you might package like something like that together. But there might be some other ideas too. An idea that came up was perhaps some technical assistance on how we do better with mental and behavioral health as a community, especially in crisis response. Maybe there's some ideas around getting some technical assistance on that. So just thought I would drop that. Maybe people want to chew on that and think about it a little bit. And as we actually get the information directly from EPA, we'll know a little bit more about the parameters of what we can ask for, but potentially an exciting opportunity for us to get some assistance kind of grappling with some of these harder challenges that we need some help thinking about. And that's all the updates I have at this point. I will see if Casey has anything you'd like to add.
Mr. Miller.
Yeah, thank you. Nothing specific, but if folks are tuning into this meeting for the first time, we do have a recovery team that includes the school district, our planning department, emergency management, solid waste, and so forth. We meet every 2 weeks. We're still having interface with FEMA. So if you kind of look at that bell curve, the tail stretches out, but I know we are committed to continuing to work on the recovery for North County. So thank you.
Anything additional? I think the message is that it continues to be on our agenda, continues to be an item of importance, and it's a long-term effort, a day at a time.
Yeah, and I would just add on that note, Commissioner Hunt, that it's sometimes hard to see with your eyes, like visually, the progress taking place when you drive up there and you see it. But for example, what I don't talk about in these meetings, because I find it rather boring for people, is the amount of contracts and emails I need to respond to today in regards to getting this money from the state here. And those are tangible things that have to move forward for people to be able to visually see recovery happening. There's a lot of back end stuff that happens with their septic and well water program that we don't talk about, because I don't think we really need to drag survivors through those pieces. But there's a lot that has to happen at an administrative level for the kind of more exciting things to take place. And so just to note that we work very hard on all of those things, and we work very hard on all of those things so that survivors don't have to.
Yeah, very good.
Well said.
All right. Thank you for that report. And I'm going to change the order just a bit and ask Ms. Damaris if she's prepared to give the Cascadia raisin. I like my raisins. Exercise for 2022. And
yes, I'm very ready to go.
All right, it's all yours.
All right, thank you. And thanks, Casey, for putting my slides up for me. I'll just let you know when I'm ready to advance to the next one. So the reason why I'm here today is I didn't want our Board of Commissioners to be left out. This is the presentation that I have been very honorably allowed to present at each of your cities and our tribal partners on our Cascadia Rising exercise that is scheduled for June of 2022. To keep my time very short, I'm going to skip through several of the slides and you can read those when you have time. But I just want to emphasize on the play of events and activities that we have scheduled, and you've already pretty much approved most of this by delegating that responsibility to me, but I want to give you a sneak peek, if you will, of what we have planned. Okay, Casey. There we go. Go ahead and skip to the next one. Okay, and just want to point out here again that this is a national level exercise. In 2016, the exercise was regional, which means FEMA Region 10 and our state partners here, and of course us at the local level. But this time, go ahead, Casey, it will be a national level exercise, which will incorporate all of the all of the federal level departments. This is actually a really big thing for us here at Ground Zero for Cascadia. Another point I want to make is that the exercise play begins on day 5 of the scenario. In 2016, we started the scenario at the 0 hour, so when the simulated earthquake began. And this exercise, we are starting on day 5. Go ahead. So what is the feds focusing on? Again, a 4-day exercise beginning June 13th through the 16th, begins on the 5th day of operations. They are also doing small lead up activities or tabletop exercises to fill the gaps. Everyone is focusing on critical components to a catastrophic earthquake. And then there are other offshoot exercises with those state and federal agencies. Go ahead, Casey. Just a laundry list of the different type of federal partners that are participating, which again, this is a big deal for us in the Pacific Northwest. Go ahead. And what are they focusing on? For us as local government and your city and tribal partners, that first one there, operational coordination, continuity of government. That is really one of the most important things that we're going to be focusing on with our cities and our tribal partners. What do we do if local government is affected by the natural disaster or event that we're responding to? Meaning, a commissioner may not be able to arrive at the county courthouse, may not be available virtually. Who is in line for that line of succession? Who has authoritative decision making? Who has the ability to request those resources on behalf of the entire county? And as you would expect, infrastructure systems, critical transportation, all of those things that go with that. And then on the human aspect, mass care. I've talked with you previously about our new mass care and sheltering plan that's up in the works, and we'll have that done in early spring. And so we'll be focusing on evacuation, shelter and feeding, and housing. Next, Casey. So what are we focusing on? Go ahead, Case. Just to give you a snapshot of what we did in 2016, we had a very comprehensive exercise schedule that we participated in. Go ahead. And these were the top 4 things that we were focusing on. And I've presented on these to you before, so we won't spend a lot of time, but Cascadia community presentations, your catastrophic management services contract that legal counsel and I will be updating and renewing next year, our emergency fuel action plan, which is almost finished. And then we'll be wrapping up our critical facilities, sites, and essential services as we conclude our mass care and sheltering plan. Next. So what are we working on for our exercise? Go ahead. Of course, just like the feds, we have a laundry list of check boxes of things that we have to do to make sure that we're ready for our exercise. Next. And then these are the priority items that we're focusing on now in order to be ready for that exercise. The first one, which is very important, is to determine which of our local partners are going to participate in the exercise in June. It's a challenge for us to build a sort of behind the scenes scenario and all the bells and whistles to make that exercise feel real. So we have to have that commitment to play. You as the county gave your commitment to play, actually, I think in 2019 to the state. So we were one of the first counties on board, ready to go. We've already conducted our initial planning meeting and our concept and objective meetings. And then we are just finishing up our pre-exercise training, drills, and outreach events. And now we're ready to present our day of play exercise layout. Go ahead. So what do we have planned for those 4 days of play? Yep, we recognize that the exercise is June 13th through the 16th, but we're actually recommending that all of our partners in our county operations actually begin our exercise with a drop, cover, and hold on event on Thursday, June 9th at 8 a.m. That is the actual simulated time frame of when this earthquake is to start for our exercise. And we'll be practicing our drop, cover, and hold on this October as part of the Great Oregon Shakeout. But really, I just think it would be a great idea to really get everyone in the mood for this exercise by practicing again our drop, cover, and hold on exercise, and then maybe even evacuating those facilities and kind of doing a situational assessment of how many employees do you have, how long could we be there, who has enough food and water to get us by for the next 3 to 5 days. And then if community members or such are in the inundation areas, that would be a great time to do a tsunami walk. So the focus areas that we are going to be looking at is our field emergency operations center. So actually being in the field, we're utilizing amateur radio, mass care and shelter field deployment, resource coordination specifically for fuel and mass care needs, all by amateur radio, situational status assessment with our local partners, and then completion of our catastrophic emergency declaration, activation of our continuity of operations plans, initiation of our incident command documentation, specifically the 201 and 202s, and then affirmation of our line of succession for local government. And these are really what we're portraying to all of our partners that they should participate in. Go ahead, Casey. So here is the big day of play, if you will. So the first day, Thursday, June 9th at 8 to 10 a.m., doing that drop, cover, and hold on, that evacuation drill. Everything you see here is voluntary for all of our participants. On Saturday, June 11th, we'll be doing our initiation of the field operations for emergency operations center. So we'll be doing everything outside. I've already been to the fair board and they were very gracious in allowing us to use the commons area for the entire week to be able to host these exercise activities. In that area, we're going to set up all of our tents and trailers that we have, and we're going to practice a dry run, if you will, of amateur radio communications. And then our local public safety groups, the CERT teams, they're going to have some activities planned for that day as well. So then on Monday, we'll continue our virtual operations for the EOC out at the Commons. But what we would like to do is host an open house for senior officials, elected officials, agency leadership representatives, so that they could actually come through and see what that operations field looks like with the items that we have. It works to two advantages. One, give an idea of what we actually have and what our capabilities are, but it also helps us build our gap list, if you will, so that we can identify our plan for improvement and determine what things should we request through our federal grants as we go forward in future years. And then on Tuesday, this is the most valuable participation day. So if our local city governments, tribal partners have time to give that they can participate, this is the day I would really love for them to participate. We are going to be hosted at the Newport Armory. We are going to have sort of a high energy tabletop exercise where we'll have a table for each of our city partners, the tribe, we'll have a table for the state partners and federal partners. And then in the center of the room, this is where we'll host those agencies that are center for everyone. So our utility partners, the school districts, law enforcement, road departments, some other state agencies. And then what we'll do is we'll walk through all of those hard conversations and decision points and priority making that we would do in a simulated exercise, but have all of the folks in that room. Now we know for a Cascadia event, we wouldn't be able to see each other. Communications are going to be very strained, but really being able to sit together, hear the conversations, hear the report out about the what ifs, what decisions we would be making, and then also have that simulated information coming back in from the state and feds will give a realistic approach to local government in that continuity of operations. And then the next day, we are going to continue that exercise and we'll have an amateur radio operator at each of the city and tribal locations where then they will practice some of the homework, you will, that we did during the tabletop exercise and actually practice relaying that information to their amateur radio operators back to the county field operations. And then on Thursday, we're sort of ramping down. Of course, during all of these days of play, the county EOC is participating with the state and the feds. And then on Thursday, we'll be ramping down our activities with the state and feds, doing the demobilization process. And then on Friday, we will host our participant hot wash for all of our partners here locally. So that's the big day of play. Go ahead, Casey. So here are all the different lead up and activities and trainings that we are hosting to get us and our community ready for this exercise. From emergency declaration review, crisis leadership and decision making, resource ordering. We have training for animals and disaster, public information, the standard form FEMA classes that we're required to take. All of these things are being prepared to be scheduled before the exercise. Next. This is just a little snapshot of some of the things we have specifically scheduled with dates and times, and these are more focused for local government leadership. So we're going to do an activation of our Everbridge, review that emergency declaration process, situational status assessment, and we're also going to start talking about FEMA community lifelines. That's going to be a great resource for making those priority decisions. Leadership review for crisis leadership, public information and messaging, introduction again to our joint information system process. And then we're going to practice sort of a dress rehearsal. So on May 12th, our drill time, we are going to do a dress rehearsal for doing those resource requests, situational status assessments, so that when we get to those June dates, everyone will feel a little bit more comfortable with the nuances of those processes. Next. So how are we getting all this work done? We've broken ourselves up into 3 different teams. We have the primary exercise team. They're building everything behind the scenes. There's about 5 of us. And then the pre-development or catastrophic response documents. So this is what I'm very, very proud about. Instead of spending everyone's time building out the exercise, we're going to use those representatives from each of the agencies, city, tribal government, to actually build out the documents that we're going to need when a catastrophic event happens. And then Team C is going to be focusing on public education campaign leading up to the event. Next. So Team B, these are the type of things that we're going to focus on. I've heard over and over again from our local city partners, man, we just wish we had that box that had everything that we needed to have. So when this happens and we can't get back into our building, right, we would have that box. So that's what we're going to work on. Everybody has the blank forms, but unless you live in this sort of atmosphere of priorities and objectives and things, it doesn't come real easy. So my big idea was, well, let's take this time leading up to June where we actually pre-fill these forms, decide what our instant objectives are for the first week, second week, third week, and then the second month and third month, so that any commissioner or elected official or that line of succession finds themselves at the table where they're having to make hard decisions with limited information and limited resources, that the pre-thinking had already been done. And it will also be beneficial to all of our community members that all of our cities, the tribe, and the county have aligned objectives and priorities. So as we go through that process together, when we're separated geographically, we'll know that everyone has that same box and we've already thought this out. We're also going to make sure that those resource requests for fuel, food, water purification, medications, and medical personnel are already filled out, ready to go. And once we get those filled out, we're actually going to send them up to the state in advance and let them know that these are the type of resources that we anticipate we will be requesting. So if you don't hear from Lincoln County, these have already been approved, they're in our plan, and push them through. Community situational status assessment tool for downtime. We know how to do it when technology works, but how do we really do this in a minimized effect? So we don't get to do paragraph after paragraph. We have to shorten it down to the least amount of words, but the most valuable information that can be relayed via amateur radio or through satellite phone. And then how to utilize your amateur radio operators. We love our volunteers. We know they're there. We know they're going to make their way to local government agency locations. But how do you really interact with an amateur radio operator? Well, we're going to desensitize you to working with your amateur radio operators and making both sides feel more comfortable. And then lastly, again, working and focusing on those response and recovery goals and objectives specific to this catastrophic event. Next. So what are our next steps? Go ahead. So our next steps, all of our local government folks, we've asked them, I've been able to present to them to let us know who their liaisons will be for Team B and Team C. We need to have that information around the first part of October. I've asked them to reserve their calendars, just like I've done for us here at the county, for rooms or locations or parking lots that they might need to have. Sign up for those training events as you see them advertised. We will only be able to do first come, first serve for Lincoln County because they are federally funded. So once I offer it to our local folks, they have to be offered to the entire state. And I'm sure that these spots will go very quickly because most classes will be virtual. And it's been quite a while since we've had state or federal funded training because of COVID. And then exercise scenario background. There's a lot of behind the scenes. Ken Murphy and I, who are the 2 exercise planners, we said, we kind of did all this already in 2016. So there's no point in recreating the wheel. So that will save our local partners a lot of time. Go ahead. So this is just a short laundry list of the community partners that are already on board that have been participating in our planning meetings. We know that more folks will be joining us as we move forward after these presentations and the cities provide their liaisons. And I would be happy to entertain any questions that you may have, but just to say that emergency management and the volunteers are ready to go and very excited.
Thank you. Questions or comments from commissioners?
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Hall.
No questions, just a comment though. It is certainly pleasing, not surprising, given the track record of the Emergency Management Division that we are so on top of this already. And I really feel this presentation this morning from Ms. Damaris just helps to underscore that we should be prepared to have another good, productive exercise. It was nice to see some very important, tangible outcomes come out of the 2016 event. And I have no doubt we'll see more from next year's. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Jacobson?
I guess just one thing I might want to say about the plans, and you probably are aware of this, but just to make sure is, you said you'd worked with the Fair Board to use the Commons area. You know, that area is going to be under construction. So, you know, difficult to say in June what may or may not still be standing, but it sounds like you're doing it outside. And so.
Yeah, we just need
That
this.
should be fine.
We just
wanted to
need
make
the
sure you
outside
knew.
area.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Heaven forbid in a real disaster, there may not be a building. All right, I have a couple of questions. I've always tried to, I guess, look out for the east area of the county. And of course, Ms. Damaris, you and I both live in those areas. I don't see the Eddyville Charter School. I see the Siletz Charter School.
So, yeah, so these are folks that have been able to give time to attend and are participating. This doesn't mean that they won't be participating in the exercise. It just means that they didn't have a representative to be able to attend the meetings. And these meetings started back in February, so it may be just a bandwidth of their personnel to participate. But everyone gets the updates from all of the meetings and notes that we do from our planning activities. So they're being kept informed, but they may not necessarily have a staff person to participate in the planning.
Well, that probably then applies to the Toledo Rural Fire Protection District, which I also see is not listed. So thank you for that clarification. I did participate in the last regional exercise, found it extremely informative. And you know, the purpose of these exercises is to learn how we can do better next time. So also, just for the record, Commissioner Hall, if rotations go as usual, and I expect they will, Commissioner Hall will be chair next year. So Commissioner Hall has been the representative from the Board of Commissioners in these meetings since she will be chair next year when the actual exercise occurs. So appreciate Commissioner Hall helping in that role. And if there are no other questions, thank you. And I'm sure we'll hear additional reports as we progress toward the big event.
Yep. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. All right, we'll back up just a little bit and do the COVID vaccination update. And I believe we have Interim Public Health Director Portell with us. Welcome.
Thank you. Good morning, commissioners. So this morning we're trialing for more to the point, shorter presentation, even though we have kept all the slides and they're all updated with the latest data. So you can go to the next slide, please. Let's see. All right, so we decided to focus it on what we think you and the public needs to know this week. I have two slides, one regarding COVID cases and the other one regarding vaccinations. So in terms of COVID cases, we're starting to see a decrease in hospitalizations at the statewide level, as well as at the county level, which is, you know, good news, even though based on projections, I believe from OHSU, they're still anticipating having plenty of COVID positive patients in the hospitals until November this year. We're definitely also seeing some flattening of the curve that is happening statewide. We're seeing a slowdown and really like you can see the curve flattening. And in Lincoln County, we're seeing some decrease in the cases that have been reported to us. And it's also shown through the indicators for community transmission, which is new cases per 100,000 and test positivity rate. So those indicators are showing some decrease, which is good. I want to remain cautiously optimistic still, just because school has started and we are gonna get inside a little bit more. So we'll have to see how that evolves. But this is very encouraging data. One thing that we did to try to really help our partners with decision making in terms of isolation and quarantine when they are in a specific situation. I have a staff member who has been exposed. What do I do? We developed a guidance with a variety of scenarios to really help people make those decisions and be informed as to what their next step could be while they wait for public health to get in touch with them. And then still, it's been clear, but it's definitely continuing in that line that really the unvaccinated individuals are driving the epidemic and account for the vast majority of hospitalizations. In Lincoln County, unvaccinated individuals are representing about 85% of all hospitalization, and that proportion holds true statewide. Next slide, please. So in terms of vaccination, so the FDA is going to meet later this week and talk about boosters and hopefully define some criteria as to if we move ahead with booster, who is going to be eligible for this. So we're looking forward to those conversations and to this guidance. Because we want to be prepared, we've been doing some active pre-planning in case we are getting some guidance that boosters are going to be available. And the other piece is that we're still doing great in terms of vaccination rates for eligible individual. We are at 78.8% this week. We're number 4 in the state. And I've been wondering, so we've had quite a significant caseload, especially in August, and still we have a pretty significant caseload in September. And our hospitalizations have been, even though they've increased significantly from what we've seen in the past, our hospitals have been able really to hold their own and to not even be operating in any type of surge capacity. And I think really this is a demonstration of the efficacy of vaccines. And 78.8% of the eligible population being vaccinated is tremendous. And I think the hard work that we all did earlier this year really led us to be able to protect our community members and protect our hospitals. And so yeah, this is really encouraging in a way. I was trying to focus on positive and optimistic views, and it's great to look at the impact of what we did and how well it's been working. Next slide, please. So a call to action, when can one do to slow the spread and continue to get us, to decrease our cases? Getting vaccinated, still the best option against transmission, against hospitalization, and against mortality from this virus. Wearing a mask in public settings and indoor setting to ensure those levels of protections for yourself and the people around you. Limitation of social gatherings and maintaining physical distance, especially when we come back outdoors. I think it's going to be come back indoors. I think it's going to be very important for people to really consider maybe limiting the pods of folks they are gathering with. And then when you're sick, stay home as much as possible. And yeah, realize that, this is data that I presented last week, but when you look at the breakthrough cases since January, only 12% of all of the cases that have been reported since then have been amongst the vaccinated individuals. So really, really getting vaccinated is the best action you can take to protect yourself and the people around.
Florence, I have a question. That 12.4%, is that an Oregon number or a Lincoln County number?
And I'm going to stop here and ask for any questions. The slide deck is available to you. There are 17 slides, but I thought that maybe we didn't need to go through them all this week. I'm happy to take any questions.
Yeah, thank you, Florence. I do have a question. Is that 12.4% number a Oregon number or a Lincoln County number?
It's a Lincoln County number.
Okay, great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? As usual, good information, Florence. And again, get vaccinated. It's the best way to prevent the spread and kill the pandemic. And we need to wear masks indoors and outdoors, limit social gatherings. And if you're feeling sick, stay home. But I think one of the most important things on that slide is if you're worried about the efficacy or safety of a vaccine, 88% of the cases of people that are getting sick are unvaccinated. So to me, that speaks pretty powerfully to the effectiveness of the vaccine and the safety. Any other comments?
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Hall.
Appreciate the presentation. No questions, just a comment that certainly none of us can exactly relax, but it is nice after seeing dramatically climbing numbers for several weeks to see signs of the curve flattening and a little more breathing room. Thank you.
Well said. All right. Thank you. Appreciate the good information and appreciate the ongoing good work.
You're welcome.
All right, we'll move on. Under reports, commissioner reports. Who wants to go first?
I'm sorry. I don't have anything this week, Mr. Chair.
All right, Commissioner Jacobson.
Nothing additional for me either. Thank you.
All right, I'm just going to make an observation. I've gotten a couple of invites to make some presentations to groups. And I've been asking, are these virtual meetings or in-person meetings? And frankly, it's been a little surprising that several of them are, relatively larger groups, face-to-face meetings, and I have declined those. I continue to believe that the county's informal policy, or certainly our practice right now, to have remote work when possible, to meet virtually, and to limit travel are certainly important steps in trying to limit the spread of the virus. So, I'm going to encourage the business leaders out there, members on boards of nonprofits and other community volunteer organizations to keep in mind that one of the things that can be done to help limit the spread is to limit big or in-person face-to-face meetings and have them virtually. I think that that would help us all. So with that, I will move on to public comment. And I believe we had at least one comment was received yesterday.
Yes, Chair, that is true. And I am going to share with you the county's website to show us.
That would help us all. So
Whoops,
with that, you're echoing.
sorry about that. We got into some sort of a time loop there with the.
No, let's not go to time loops.
I
All
don't
right,
want another
Star Trek would call
disaster.
it a temporal anomaly.
Yes,
Oh,
it was. So you could actually watch yourself on YouTube delayed if you wanted to. But let's take a look at the county's website today. We just have one item of public input, and we have nothing for our short-term rentals. So there it is. And I believe we do not have any participants right now wishing to speak. But if somebody is here and wants to raise their hand, it would be a last chance for you to get information in. But I don't see anyone at this time.
all right. Yeah, I don't see anyone. This would be the opportunity for public comment virtually. And I also don't see anyone indicating a desire to address the board. So we will move on. Any last items to come before the board? All right. Actually, we have two executive sessions this afternoon. One at 1:30 and the other at 3:30. Both of these executive sessions are under ORS 192-660 parentheses 2 parentheses A to consider employment. The next meeting of the Lincoln County Board of Commissioners will be held virtually on Wednesday, September 22nd at 10 a.m. And also on that day, the Board of Commissioners will be taking a tour of our county jail. This is something that's required annually. And we will be doing that tour virtually at 3 p.m. next Wednesday, the 22nd. So until that time, or until next time on Wednesday for our public meeting, we are adjourned.